So this is Steve, and I'm here with Sheriff Ken Freeze. We had a meeting this morning with the county commissioners, their legislative session. They talked about the interlocal agreement for 911 consolidation. How do you feel about the meeting this morning?
I was glad at the outcome. Wasn't quite sure after Monday's meeting how the outcome was going to be. I know there was a lot of arm twisting going on trying to get at least one of the other commissioners on board with Nelson, and both of them had told me throughout the week that they weren't happy with the plan. If I wasn't happy with it, they weren't happy with it. And I think they both learned some things on Monday that maybe they didn't know before about the system and how it operates, which gave them some pause. And I think they made the right decision.
Mm-hmm. So they basically, their decision was to put off any kind of a vote for 60 days.
Yeah, basically table it, look at it again in 60 days. Nelson had called me on Wednesday wanting to know what we could do to fix it, and I said, shred the document you have and we start over. I let Rusty and I get together, the two people that are in charge of the communications center, get together and come up with a plan, and which seems to me to be the best way to do it and would have been all along, as opposed to having the commissioners and the deputy mayor come up with it.
So really, it's not been, you've not really been brought into the loop.
It's not been real interactive, no. Yeah. Commissioner Peters had come to me several times with the plan, probably 8-9 months ago. I told him it was flawed. I told him how it was flawed. Commissioner Brown asked me, he says, well, give us something in writing. So I wrote them a paper on it. I said, if we're going to have a board, this is how it should be structured, following the state statute. That was December of last year. At no point did what the Commissioner Peters was working on, along with Rick Purcell, ever change to reflect that. Now, Nelson will say that it's essentially similar, or it's close, but it's different to be brought in, and it's different to be brought in and listened to. And he would readily admit, well, you know much more about dispatch than I do, but then disregard what I had to say. Mm-hmm. So it has been a frustrating process. I was glad to see it's put on hold, and let Chief York and I take a look at it, see what we can come up with, get the heads of our communications together, talk to the firefighters, the volunteer and the regulars, and see where are the deficiencies. And part of the problem I have with the entire process is they have said from the start it's going to save money. I've been able to show them where it's not going to save money. We were originally told it's going to save $1.5 million. Then it was going to save $750,000. Then it was down to $133,000. Then it was down to, well, the mayor 2 days ago on the radio said we're going to have to hire more people. It's not going to save money. And I think that's one thing that citizens and taxpayers need to understand. It's going to cost more money. They continually bring up the dropped 911 calls, the transfers. And we have protocol in place that I wish people could understand how it works. A 911 call comes into Fort Wayne. If they don't answer it, it rolls to the county. We answer it. If it's a priority one or an in-progress crime, we type in the information just as if we're a call taker for the city. Type it in and send it straight to a dispatcher. So they're ready to dispatch the information. Call has never been transferred. When somebody answers 911, it's 911 emergency. They don't say County 911 or Fort Wayne 911. The caller has no idea who they're talking to. All they know is their information was taken and inputted, sent straight to a city dispatcher. After all that information is gathered, then the call is transferred to the city in case they need follow-up information. But it's been done and sent to the dispatcher long before that transfer ever occurs. And that's the one misnomer they keep bringing out, all these dropped calls. It's going to be faster, it's going to be more efficient. It is not. It's already done. It's in place. You know, we have wasted $735,000 with this electronic bridge for Three Rivers Ambulance Authority. We could have moved 4 dispatch stations into the city dispatch for $200,000. Right now we spent $735,000 to build this electronic bridge so software can talk to software. They should have been moved into the dispatch center in the same room using our Spillman system. It would have saved $500,000.
And you're talking about the 4 TRA.
4 TRA dispatchers. But instead, their board didn't want to move in because the software didn't do the billing the way they wanted it done. The mayor should have said, too bad, you're moving. We're going to save $500,000 and we're going to get you there on the same system. No electronic bridge. A waste of money. And those are things that frustrate me. I mean, I have said from day one, it's public safety first. We as elected officials should look at. Dispatch center is an inherent delay in time. A 911 call comes in, it cannot go straight to the first responder. Someone has to take the information out and get it back out. We need to look at the process and say, how can we narrow that time? How can we make it so it's a seamless transmission of information from the 911 caller to the first responder? What we've done so far is very good. I mean, we have made it so where there is not much of a delay. There's certainly time delay getting the information down and send it to the dispatcher, but there are no transfers of calls other than the ones to TRA that are still getting transferred because this electronic bridge still isn't working, and that frustrates me. The 2 things I said should have been done didn't cost anything. We're going to save money, move TRA in, and have dual responses for the fire departments. It makes no sense to me to have a city fire truck drive past a volunteer station to go to an assignment, or vice versa. If my house is on fire, send the closest fire truck. I don't care what it says on the side.
One of the things that Commissioner Brown was talking about in the meeting this morning was a consensus board. How does that square with, first of all, with the state statute, and then how does it square with, what you would like to see?
And really the state statute's fairly clear. It talks about a board that's in a county that does not have a consolidated city. The board is defined as the Board of Commissioners, which I thought was fairly clear. The Board of Commissioners then are the board that's in charge of it. Currently we have an MACP board that is city, county, also firefighters, the commissioners are on this board about the equipment. I said, why not expand that? The one plan I have is expand that MACP board to also make it an advisory board and bring in the volunteer firefighters. So you expand that board so you've only got the one. It's the MACP board. They do the advisory work and also the equipment work. And then the commissioners are in charge. It's a fairly simple operation to do. You don't have all these layer of boards. Initially when they wanted something, they were talking about these 3 different boards, so I said, if you're going to do it, follow the state statute. It says the commissioners are in charge. Then it says the county, the executive from each city has 1 appointee, and it lists other appointees on the board according to state statute who would be put on there. So you could follow the state statute to a T and then have that board put in place. So it would work. How well, I don't know. I'm not a big proponent of boards. If there's a problem, we need to fix it now instead of having a meeting next month and talk about it.
Well, and the other thing I guess that would kind of beg to be answered is, outside of maybe an initial shakeout period, what would the board really do once things are up and running? I guess that would be the question I would have.
Yeah, and I think it's just to make sure that their protocols are met. And that's going to be a problem for the dispatchers because we have different protocols than what the city does. And when it's combined, if it's all combined together, they're going to have to remember, okay, the county sends police officers out for a theft from vehicle, the city doesn't, sends them to teleservices. I mean, there's going to be a learning curve that hopefully there won't be anything serious. It'll just be minor stuff and that will go through flawlessly. But there'll be a learning curve. It's going to make the dispatcher's job more difficult.
So I know you've said it a couple times, and just to make sure that I've got this, the drawbridge is still not working.
It's still not working. Theoretically, sometime in November it's supposed to be. And this is a way to electronically communicate from our dispatch center to their dispatch center on Hayden. So the 2 computer systems can talk, because they refused to move because our Spillman system didn't do their billing the way they wanted it to. So we decided we'd spend $500,000 to accommodate them. Makes no sense to me. None. It should have been, no, you move into the dispatch center, use the Spillman system, figure out how to make it do your billing.
And the real reason for that was because of the fear of dropped calls.
Right. Because
it was a real danger from what I remember in city council meetings.
Yeah, and if you look at the way the county was set up, it's a one-stop shop. If you call county dispatch, you live in the county, and you need fire, police, or EMS, we send them. It's all in one area. We send fire, police, EMS. Now, if it's an advanced life support needed, then after the basic life support is en route, and the fire department, and perhaps the police, then they would transfer it to the Rivers Ambulance Authority to get any ALS going. But we've already got a basic life support going. So for us, we already had an ambulance en route. It was just getting the advanced life support going that you have to transfer the call for. Any call that came into the city, any ambulance call whatsoever, had to be transferred. I mean, it was a flaw in their system from the beginning that should have been fixed years ago. Years ago.
Anything else you'd like to add about the topic?
I think we'll work out something with Rusty and be much more inclusive. And the one thing that I'm going to make sure is that we're honest from the start. That when we look at it, if it's going to cost money, we're going to tell people it's going to cost money. We're not going to try to tell you that it's going to save money. If we have to hire more people, we're going to tell people we have to hire more people. If we can't find that it's going to speed the calls up any, we're going to tell people it's not going to speed the calls up. I don't want to have people think that this is going to be the greatest thing since sliced bread. Right. And I've said from the start, if we wind up doing this and it costs more money, but we can get a first responder to somebody's house faster, spend it. If we can save a life, spend it. It all comes down to how much more expensive is it going to be, and what benefit are we going to derive from it. If it's more expensive and we get no benefit, then why do we venture down this road? I disagree with the statute and the law in the first place. I told Matt Bell that I think they were given erroneous information on it. He was telling me that it cost $1 million to run each PSAP because they were looking at Lake County with 18 PSAPs, and it was just ridiculous. And I said, why do you apply what happened in Lake County to the rest of the state?